some people say, well, I don't like that style, or this guy dances like that guy, or whatever. But until you put them muscles on and get out there and try it, you can't really, say you don't like this or you don't like that. Get out there and do it. It's hard. It's tough.
Welcome back to a very special episode of Radical Narrative. I am your host, Mylan. For some of you out there, you may know that I dance powwow. I am a men's fancy dancer. I've been dancing probably since I was 11 years old, 12 years old. I started to get into it full time. Some of you have been dancing out there longer than me. I'm not the best. I'm not, a world champ by any means. I love to get out there and war dance and dance men's fancy. It's how I identify as a dancer, and it keeps me humble, keeps me in tune with my body. The reality with the pandemic, though, is that I miss it. I really do miss dancing, and my daughter's at the age now where she's able to dance, and she watches me practice, and very quickly she caught on and started to replicate my dance style. So, being the father I am, being the mind type I am, I said, great, she's going to dance men's fancy. If she wants to do it, let's do it. So I talked to my love, I talked to Regalia, my partner, and she came up with the idea of saying, hey, why don't you just sit down and do a podcast on men's fancy? And I thought that was a great idea. So we marinated on it a bit, bounced conversations back and forth, reached out to some people and asked some questions. And here it is. We came up with this podcast for all of you out there. Now, we obviously don't know what she is ultimately going to choose to dance. She may change her mind one day. We don't know. But as a men's fancy dancer, I was like, wow, yeah, that'd be cool. With that in mind, it started to get me thinking, I really want to get somebody on a podcast to talk about men's fancy, the way it originated in the South. And I guess I got to give some shout outs to some people who helped with the creation of this podcast. First and foremost, my uncle Cecil Gray, Wakia Jane's uncle down there in Oklahoma. I initially had a conversation with him, and he bounced it back to me and said, hey, you got to get a world champ on your podcast. Why don't you reach out to RG Harris? And I reached out to RG, and he was down. He was down to have a conversation and talk story about his experiences as a world champ, as somebody who has won Ponca Powwow. And if you don't know what that is, we're going to talk about it in this episode. Second shout I want to give is to Mr. Jared Pushatanaqua, my Sac Fox brother down there from Meskwaki. We sat down over via text and came up with some key questions we wanted to ask a world champion. And again, it's here for everyone to listen to. I really hope you enjoy this podcast. And for those of you who are not Indigenous, for those of you who have not seen a powwow or don't know what we're talking about, there are some links in the show notes. You could actually watch what we're referring to. We have some sound clips in this episode. Some of you are going to be sitting in on a very insider conversation here. And if you still don't get it, that's just too damn bad. It's our podcast, and we are going to sit down with RG Harris and have a conversation about men's fancy. So stay tuned and listen in. Awesome. Thanks for making time for us, RG. I really appreciate the time you're setting aside to talk to us about men's fancy dancing, men's war dancing.
Oh, yeah, I've been looking forward to visiting with you, and I'm real glad, and honored, that you want to call and talk to me about fancy dancing. This is something I've been doing, for 57 years now, and I grew up around it.
I guess you could go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience and our listeners.
Yeah, hello, my name is RG Harris. I'm Sac Fox and Ponca. I'm from Stroud, Oklahoma, and 62 years old time fancy dance world champion, and I've been dancing 57 years and had 3 knee surgeries, and I'm still dancing. But it's you can have surgeries on your knees or whatever, but the heart and the spirit is still there. They can't injure my heart, and they can't injure my spirit. Still do it because I love this dance. I love the feeling of it. I love to get out there and dance, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess a question for you would be, why men's fancy?
Something I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a fancy dancer. And you see a lot of these commercials. And I want to be like Mike, or I want to be like this guy, or I want to be like that guy. I never wanted to be like that. I always wanted to be a fancy dancer. When I was growing up, I seen go to powwows. See these guys come to the powwow. And watch them. And watch how they act. Before they dance. And stuff like that. Kind of like idols. So I always wanted to be like that. And of course, I played sports too. In high school, I was a Oklahoma All-Stater. In 1978, and also I got nominated to. That's the first year they had the McDonald's High School All-America nationwide game. I got nominated for that too. So then I went on and played some junior college ball, and then played 1 year at Oklahoma City University. D1 ball. And played against some guys that went on to the pros, and stuff like that, but it's always fancy dancing, was always my thing I really wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Went on and worked, and I actually coached high school basketball for 20 years too. I kind of stumbled into that though. And some guys wanted to know if I'd be willing to help, So I said, oh yeah, I'll help you guys, and coach, for 20 years. I went to the state tournament twice, and the finals once, and then coached a team that won the national All-Indian high school basketball tournament that one year in 2004. There they held it in Phoenix at the America West Arena. So had some titles like that, but fancy dancing was, I guess you might say, my first love. Wanted to be a fancy dancer.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool how you have all this experience in terms of athleticism and sports and even coaching, but you're basing that all on the foundation of being a men's fancy dancer and dancing fancy. Yeah,
I think I always tell people, I had a chance to speak, they was having a fancy dance special there in Oklahoma, and I told them, I said, well, fancy dancers, we're just a different kind of guy, well, you know how it is, you know how it feels. We're kind of like, I would say, we're kind of like adrenaline junkies, you might say. We crave that, prime time under the lights, we're always the last category to go in the evening, and everybody waits for that category, and I think that's what I like, that's what I wanted to be, I like that feeling, and wanted to go different places, and kind of within myself, I didn't say it to people, but within myself, I enjoy going to other reservations, other Indian country celebrations, and dancing against, their hometown favorites, and beating them,
Yeah, beating them, and I guess that's true for you. Is that you won a lot, and you're one of the world champions, and we'll get into that later. But the fact and the reality is that the fact is you won all over the place, and you're world renowned in that regard.
My late father always told me, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. He always told me, you got to be that guy that they got to beat. You got to be the man tonight. So, that's the attitude I always took in there. But I always had respect, for that dance at the same time too.
Yeah, and I guess like for those that aren't familiar with men's fancy, how would you explain it to somebody who doesn't have the experience of actually being out there dancing to the songs and, like you say, being out there, on the Friday night lights and that experience? How do we explain that to people?
My late father always told me, you have to respect that drum. That's the first thing. Because he told me fancy dancing is kind of equivalent to, I guess you might say, like a rodeo. He always told me, when you go to a rodeo, when you see a good cowboy, he makes a good ride on a horse or a bull. Well, the bull makes the cowboy look good. The cowboy makes the bull or the horse look good. And then the people, they reap the benefits of seeing something exciting. And he said, same way with the drum, you know, you're only as good as that drum, you know. When you draw a good drum, you know, and they give you that real good spiritual, you know, good song, you know, boys, you're going to dance good, you know. And that's the way it is. And he always told me, too, that, you know, you'll never beat that drum. You know, it'll always outlast you, and it can always trick you, you know. But if you just go right along with it and, you know, respect that drum, it's going to take care of you. So that's the way I kind of carried on like that. A lot of times I would go somewhere and win, and would come back to my home community here, you know, and maybe take some groceries and some money over to maybe like my elders in my community, you know, grandma and grandpa, you know, give them money and bring groceries in, and they would always cook for me. Hey, grandson's here. Boy's got some money. He must have won somewhere. I'd share that with them to maintain that balance, you know. He told me also that life is like a scales, you know, a set of scales, you know. You can't always take all the time. You got to give back. And if you don't, you know, then things get out of balance. And that's what happened to me, I believe. I was dancing there and winning every weekend and winning here and winning there. And got to the point where I would just look on the flyer, you know, and say, well, how much is first, you know? And then I had a knee injury, you know, and tore meniscus in my right knee. That was the first surgery. And so then I had to look at things a little different. So after that, I started to, you know, give back, you know, maintain that balance in my life. And that even goes over to the dancing, I believe, you know. Whatever moves, you know, always get to the left. I try to come back to the right, you know, to maintain the balance again. Going back to the scales, you know, whatever move I did to the front, you know, I always try to come back to the back and I kind of keep that balance in there. And it makes it look more full, you know. You can always tell when you see somebody that's like a person that plays basketball that's really right-handed, you know, everything's to the right, you know, or left-handed, you know.
Yeah.
But if everything is balanced, you know, you don't know what to do. That person, you know, is more of a threat, you know, on the basketball court.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only maintaining that balance in terms of, you know, receiving some prize money and giving it back to the community, but also with your body, like maintaining the balance with your body in terms of your left and right movements and your footwork. And that sport analogy does make sense in terms of somebody being able to utilize their left and right hands and being ambidextrous in that way is a very useful tool. And they are very, you know, well-rounded athlete in whatever sports they play.
And I think sports helped me with my footwork. You know, also, you know, I always taught, as a coach, I always taught footwork, you know, to my players, and it seemed like that kind of mirrored dancing to work on having a good footwork and balance, you know, left, right, forward, back. But I've enjoyed dancing, you know, that's, like I say, I've been dancing about 57 years now, and I've enjoyed it. I got to go a lot of places. I got to travel to a lot of different reservations and dance against a lot of people. And
Yeah, and like sports, there is an element of competition because we are technically dancing against each other. We are competing against each other as men's fancy dancers. I guess my question would be, how did you view competition in your generation at the time you were dancing?
My generation, you know, I was always told, you know, when you put that number on, you know, there's no relatives out there, you know. You dance to beat that guy, you know. But as soon as you take that number off, you know, then, hey, that's my brother, you know, that's my nephew, you know, that's my uncle, you know. Generation where I come from, we try not to carry it over, you know, and be mad at somebody all week or the next week. Have that respect, you know, for that person. Even on the dance floor, you know, when somebody was doing their thing over here in this area, you know, we didn't spin over there, you know, and try to get them out of beat, you know, off time or something. You know, respect that guy's area, you know, in the same way, you know, they respect yours.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I like how you're highlighting like the healthy competition we obviously have as Indigenous people. And in your time, that competition was there, but everyone kept it on the dance floor, and there was still respect and mutual respect playing out. And I know there's some people out there, you know, just the competitive spirit gets the best of them, and they tend to linger and stay stuck. And I guess a lot of your observations and the knowledge you're sharing is coming from the lived experience of being a men's fancy dancer. And in my mind, you are a legend. Like when we did have conversations with other men's fancy dancers on who we're going to get to talk story about men's fancy dancing, everyone was making reference to world champion. Somebody who won at Ponca Powwow, and your name came up numerous times, and that's partly why I wanted to reach out to you. And I guess I could phrase this as a question, and I guess ask you, what was one of the most memorable moments of your whole dancing experience in your lifetime?
One of my highlights of my life, you might say, my dancing career, is to be a world champion at Ponca City, Oklahoma, White Eagle Reservation.
Yeah, and I guess like that's bragging rights, right? Like Ponca Powwow is the power to go to and dance men's fancy at, and if you win it, you're a legend. What's the backstory? Like how did Ponca Powwow come to be such a specific place for men's fancy dancing?
It's a story I was told, back in late 20s. They had a contest up there in Kansas. They told them fancy dancers, whoever wins this contest, you have the right to take it back home to your reservation and say that you can host a home of the world champion, So a Ponca man at that time, Augustus McDonald, he won that fancy dance championship. So that's why it came back to Oklahoma. And I've won that 4 times and got retired from that arena. After you win it 4 times, they say you're retired. Can't come back and dance anymore. So that was that was a highlight of my dancing career, to win, where they say it came from. And another thing that I accomplished here this year, was I had 2 knee surgeries, 2 total knee replacements, because of dancing, basketball, sports, bull riding. That I had to have 2 total knee replacements. But this past year at Ponca, forced myself to go back up there and dance again. And it was in the golden age, and some people might say, well, it was just the golden age, but to me, to dance again on that grounds, that arena, to be able to come back, from 3 knee surgeries, and, being older, to come back and dance again, dance there, that was, that meant something to me. So I put that right up there with my, big trophies of fancy dancing.
Yeah. And that is a feat, to be dancing men's fancy in golden age. Like that is a very admirable physical feat, one that, I know a lot of young men's fancy dancers really strive to want to be dancing this dance for as long as possible, as long as physically possible. So it's really cool how that's up there with, your victories and your championships in the past, that, you're still out there dancing. Back
in the 70s and probably the late 70s, when I started dancing in senior categories, man, there was a lot of good fancy dancers here in Oklahoma. And we always say, shoot, any weekend, there was 6, 7, 8 guys that could have won. Man, you had to turn on Sunday night, man, because anybody could beat you. It all came down to who was kind of feeling good, and who got a good song. I had danced against a lot of guys that were good fancy dancers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was it like to observe the style of men's fancy during that time?
I was kind of in that generation where I got to see some of the real, I would say, pure Southern fancy dancers. That generation before me, I got to see some of those guys. Personally, I got to see them dance, and I got to watch them. And some of the guys that were my idols, were, out of no disrespect, but I say their name, the late Johnny Whitecloud, my big brother, he was one of the champions back then, a lot of good dancers from here in Oklahoma, and I got to see them, and I got to see their style, and I always tell people, back then, you could turn off the arena lights and just watch their shadows, and you knew who they were because they had, go-to moves, we knew, when we seen that move, oh, that's so-and-so, oh, that's so-and-so, and sometimes, you see dancers now, where everybody's kind of almost doing the same thing, but back then, man, you know who they were, because, well, they had all their go-to moves, So I got to see those guys and kind of pick out a few moves that I liked from each guy and kind of put it into my routine, out of respect to them. I've seen a lot of good dancers from all over here in Oklahoma. And then as I started traveling, I got a little older, I started traveling, going up to the North Country there, seeing another set of good dancers, and got to dance against them, and it was fun. I had fun dancing. Got to get acquainted and be made relation, fellowship, and relationship brothers, and uncles, fancy dancers like that, got to dance along with them and compete with them. Now that was a good time too.
Yeah, and now I guess we're getting into the details because Men's Fancy did make its way north to my territory in the Northern Plains, and it did develop a unique style that is, I guess, a bit different than what you were seeing and experiencing down in Oklahoma. And I like how you really highlighted that every dancer had their own unique style, and that today a lot of people are looking and moving in the same way. So we're kind of losing that very unique regional differences or even personal differences. What is the difference, like in your experience, based off your years of traveling and you being a world champion? What is the difference between Northern and Southern?
Well, like we say, then we go back to the drum. We go back to the drum. And the songs were different, for us to come up there, and we had to learn to dance a different style of song, and then the dancers, they were good, we had to compete against a lot of the champions from there, and it was tough, to come somewhere where nobody hasn't seen you before, and you have to almost dance twice as hard, to get noticed. But we had some of the things here, and then the dance styles were a little different, I think when I first went up north, the dancers up north I noticed were a lot more acrobatic, you might say. They were a lot more, body movement, and did a lot more things, than we did when we first went up. But, we had a lot of the old style, you might say, a lot of footwork, not so much spinning, not so much, using the whole dance floor, but just doing our work, right there in one spot. And so the dance styles were a little different back then. And we did a lot more footwork, I think, and at that time, it seemed like as we traveled up north too, a lot of the guys, wore spinners, there's not too many rockers back then.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the things that we wore down here,
Yeah, and there is still like a Northern and Southern difference for sure. But again, seems like a lot of people are blending it and mixing it up. But based off your experience, like what makes what are the what's foundational in terms of dance style that Men's Fancy has to consider constantly?
As a dancer, I was told by my old people here, there's a lot of things, a lot of things when you see a dancer, a lot of things to look for. First of all, that rocker, that thing's got to be, going just right in time with that drum, right in time with that drum. Then there's many parts, in the body that people don't realize. I don't think that you look for, when you're judging a contest, you might say. A lot of the dancers down here, we used our arm muscles, a lot of work keeping your elbows out, a lot of arm muscle movements, left and right, and shoulder movements, different times of the song, using that song, taking advantage of that song, and then even your bottom muscle, using that bottom muscle, shaking the bottom muscle, and the top muscle too, also using that, and even your knees, there was moves you could do, using the knees to make emphasize, moves, fancy dance moves, and then of course the footwork, and then you have to put all of that together and make it look smooth, make it look like everything that you're doing is going right along with that song, that they're singing you.
Yeah, I really like how you're explaining this because there's literally a lot of moving pieces when you're going out there to dance. not only with your body, but like even how you highlight, you know, the presence of the drum and how you have a relationship with that drum, and the drum keeps us humble because, like you say, we'll never outdance that drum. But then there's a flow, like things click and things are going smooth and everything syncs up and it's the ideal moment. What was it like as a dancer to get in that flow where everything's coming together and you're dancing to that drum, and you're out there carrying yourself in that way to do the best you can in those moments? What was it like for you?
To me, you know, I don't know how other people look at it, but to me, it's almost like a spiritual thing. You know, I used to pray before I danced and tell God, you know, I want you to look down on me and bless me tonight, so that I could dance good for people. I could make somebody feel good out there. You know, I could dance good and do something, make a move like that. They might say, "Oh, my dad used to do that. Oh, my uncle used to do that. Oh, my grandpa used to do that." You know, and do something there that's going to make somebody feel good. And my late father, he told me, he said, the ultimate compliment, you know, winning money is good, you know, but the ultimate compliment somebody can give to you, they come up to you, you know, after you dance, come shake your hand. "Hey, son, well, it sure made me feel good, you know. I sure enjoyed watching you dance. I want to thank you, you know, you sure made me feel good." Because my father told me, you don't know what people has been going through, you know, that in their past year of their life, you know, or the past month or the week, or maybe even that day. You don't know what people has been through. But that night when they watch you dance, you know, you might make them feel good and forget about their problems, you know, just for a couple of minutes, you know, while you're dancing, you might make them feel good. That's when you've done something, I was told.
Wow. Yeah. I feel like sometimes we forget that, like especially me as a young dancer with that comparative edge, I definitely forgot those moments. But then, you know, you realize that in those moments where everything syncs up, there is an interesting space where you feel good and the drum's there and you're in this flow state. And then at the same time, sometimes we do forget that there's people out there that can't move the body the way they used to, and that they're feeling that through you, and they're observing you in that state. And it's a very like powerful experience.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I miss dancing. Like I miss the experience you're explaining here, and especially for me in my 30s, I definitely need to stay in shape and stay healthy to be able to experience it again. Not to be like a world champion, but you know, like you say, to be mindful of my body and appreciate the good life I have, and ultimately, you know, keeping in mind people are watching me dancing, and they see that too, and they experience that too.
Yeah, it's kind of a corny thing, you know. People always say, you know, dance for the people, you know, but that's what they used to tell us, you know, when we were younger. You know, there's maybe somebody out there that's maybe an old fancy dancer, you know, or somebody's not feeling good, maybe you know, just got out of the hospital or getting ready to go in the hospital, or maybe somebody in a wheelchair or something. You know, maybe he used to be a fancy dancer, but then when they see you dance, you know, then you put a smile on their face, you know, when they come up to you after you dance, you know. You know how it is when you're drinking a soda or tea or water, you know, trying to calm down, you're all sweaty, you know, and somebody comes up, "Hey, son, you know, man, you sure made me feel good, man. Dang, I enjoyed that, you know."
Yeah.
That's what my people say. That's the ultimate compliment there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and then I got a question for you. I have two daughters, and their mom, Wakia Jane, she's Comanche Kiowa, and she grew up down there off and on, and her family, they like how my daughter is dancing fancy with me. So every time I practice and we dance a few songs, she's in there. I made her some little sticks, and she likes to practice, and she's starting to dance fancy now too. And I even put my arm bustles on her back so she bustles up and she'll be jumping around and everything. And sure enough, she's dancing with me to these songs. And I wanted to ask you that question of what do you know of women doing this dance down that way?
Well, I had a late aunt, and they told me she was a fancy dancer. Well, back in the 60s, probably the 60s, there was 2 or 3 ladies that used to fancy dance. And a couple of them, you know, were pretty good, you know, I was told. You know, they would get mad, and they'd probably outdance some of the men, you know, but they didn't let them win because, you know, they didn't want to let women beat them, you know. But they used to dance back in the 60s, you know. And then in my generation, there was a couple of ladies that danced, and they were pretty good, but it was okay, for them to dance, fancy. During that time, I never heard anybody say they couldn't,
Yeah.
But there was a couple of them that danced pretty good. They never beat me though, but they were pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I really want like people up here to know that too, right? Because I heard some of those stories too, and as a daughter who's really looking like she wants to bustle up now too, it's something I want people to realize. Because for me, it's not our dance, right?
Oh yeah, well, I think if anybody asks, just say, well, that old guy RG said it was okay because them women used to dance in the South,
Yeah.
and nobody had a problem with it, man. They were pretty good too. There was some dancers from different tribes, and one of my late sisters there, once again, no disrespect, but say her name, her name was Wilma Blackow, and she was a good fancy dancer, and my sister. I never got to see her, but I heard she was pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
So, it's, I would say there's nobody that, nobody that can't dance, fancy. If that's what she feels, if that's what she enjoys, I would say go ahead, encourage them to dance. That's what it's all about. You just want to feel good.
Yeah.
You dance, you want to feel good. And my age now, I'm 62, and for me, I'll never be as, athletic as I used to be, but I still enjoy that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
dancing in that arena, putting on that regalia, put on that outfit. I just always tell people when I was younger, I said, I kind of start out like Clark Kent, when I'm got my street clothes on, and pretty soon I'm putting all my stuff on. I said, it's like going to a phone booth. I said, and then when I get everything on, I said, I feel like Superman.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a transformation, from the street clothes to, I don't know, that outfit. Even right now, I got my outfit out and put it in here on my bed and laid it out, and I'm looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the way it makes me feel. It's part of me, and I enjoy it. Sometimes, people might say, why can you listen to powwow music all the time, every day? I said, well, it's part of me. I like it. When I hear a song, it's almost, how it is, you visualize yourself doing moves, and, oh, I would do this on that part of the song, I'd do that,
Yeah.
But a lot of times when I danced, almost 99% of the time when I danced, my wife or somebody asked me, hey, that one move you did, I've never seen you do that before, where'd you get that from? But it goes back to that spirituality part of it, I believe. That song, I just, try to go along with it, and it caused me to make, movements like that. And I didn't even realize I was planning on making this move or making that move, it just took me over, and that's a part of it.
Yeah, and then you brought up the songs. Like the songs are definitely powerful, and they get you moving, and you get in that headspace where sometimes it goes by so fast. Even you just the song's over, right, and it's done. But what about the songs? What are some things people should realize, especially about like Southern songs or those war dance songs? Because my partner, my love, Wakia Jane, her family, when we were down there visiting, we sat down and had some conversation around breakfast. And her grandmother, Marilyn Bread, around the breakfast table, started talking story and started to share some information. And she told me pretty strictly about, respecting the war dance songs and respecting it as a war dance, because she was a little bit skeptical. I was from the North dancing fancy. And but she did give me some pretty good words, and then I really took that to heart. So what are some things people should realize about them Southern songs or even the war dance story?
Yeah, I just happened to call one of my brothers last week about that, because I knew you wanted to visit with me about fancy dancing, and I didn't want to come on here and say something that I'm not sure about. I wanted to research it, even further. And I called my big brother there, Jimmy Kimball. He's a lead singer for Yellowhammer. I called him up and I said, "Hey, bro, I gotta ask you about some songs here." And I always do that, I'll ask you about this song, and we visit and call each other about once a week. And I said, "Hey, these songs, that we dance nowadays, I said, those, because I know the intertribal, the Poncas, the intertribal songs, each one of them has a meaning in them. Each one of them songs, they sing about, maybe they sing about a battle that they were in, or a hunting expedition or something. They sing about those, and then people that were talented at that time, they put them to music. But a lot of the songs that I was asking my brother that they sing nowadays, some of the older songs, they had meaning too, a lot of them, a lot of those songs. And he sang a couple of songs to me and told me the meaning of them. I didn't even realize, that's what they meant. But some of the popular shake songs, that we dance to nowadays, that we used to dance to, and they still sing them a little bit. They talk about, some of them talk about a buffalo hunt, or maybe a hunting story that they went to, or they'll talk about getting ready for a battle. And he told me that they had a society there amongst the Poncas, and it was a 4-day event. Those songs, they would start out slow on the first day, then kind of second day build up, and third day a little bit faster, and then that final day, before those warriors are getting ready to go out, well, they sing them real fast songs, kind of like the fancy dance songs nowadays. So that story was shared with me. But a majority of the songs, the older songs, yeah, they all had stories behind them. They're all, when they were translated to English, they had stories. Then, of course, there were some of the songs that were, recent, they're just, kind of maybe like melodies or tunes, and they got the trick song style. They sound good, and they're all good. All the songs are good. I always tell people, whatever they sing, I'll dance to it. I was teasing somebody and telling them the story. I said, one time I was practicing in the garage, and people were driving by, it was at nighttime, had the light on, and I put on a Michael Jackson tune. Boy, that song was going. Boy, I was fancy dancing to that Michael Jackson tune. Boy, and when you had them kind of beats in there, I put in a fancy dancing move, People were driving by looking at me, and I said, hey, so what's wrong with that guy? He's probably going crazy over there. But it's just, as a dancer, I hear when I hear a song, I hear that beat. Of course, there's that natural beat that the drum's going to, but in between there, well, you know how it is. In between beats, you can do moves in between, hesitation moves, you might call them, or whatever. But that's the way I hear things. Whenever I hear something, everything is a rhythm to me.
And I guess another question for you too is like a lot of this dance, like men's fancy, it's taken over North America. Young men like dancing it, and it's popular. Like you said, we're always the last category. We're the showstoppers, and people will stick around to watch us, right? Close off the night. But what do you observe about how the dance traveled and how it's being developed today in other parts of the country?
Well, I noticed back when we were dancing that even the way we dress changed. I think the North really, the North really impressed us. We were more of a belt, and a harness and cuffs, and the aprons were short, and the leggings or the furs, were short. And then when we started seeing some of the dancers from up north, they had longer fringe, and more beadwork, and that really kind of influenced, I think, a lot of our Southern dancers. We liked that, We liked that, and we liked some of the styles that they had and some of the things, moves that they did. And we would go up there and dance, a couple of weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, then we'd come back to the South, and we'd break out those moves. They'd be new here, you know, but we'd seen them every weekend up there, and we kind of took some of their moves and their style, brought it back down this way, and I'm sure, you know, some of the dance styles here, you know, and whatever went up there too, you know. But it's kind of I've noticed it's kind of almost melted into one style here. You know, you hate to say, you know, but there's a lot of good fancy dancers. Man, I tell you what, when I go to a powwow, and of course we stay around for the fancy dance, you know, and man, it's amazing, the dancers, you know, with the agility, you know, stuff they can do. And the songs are really fast now too, you know. Back then it was more of a medium beat, and they focused down here in the South. They focused on footwork, style, you know, body movement, you know, keeping the rocker going, you know, things you could do, you know, balance, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, and now it's kind of all the music everywhere. It's evolved into real fast, you know, tricky songs and a lot of stops, you know. But it's exciting. I like it too. I noticed that's one of the changes that I've seen. But it's all good. It's all good. Some people say, well, I don't like that style, you know, or this guy dances like that guy, or whatever. But until you put them muscles on and get out there and try it, you know, you can't really, you know, say you don't like this or you don't like that. Get out there and do it. You know, it's hard. It's tough, you know. And if you're a really competition dancer, that's kind of a year-round thing. You know, you got to stay in shape. Got to start watching what you eat, you know, and get off the soda and run during the week. And used to lift weights during the week, run, dance the songs, you know, put songs on a tape and dance and lift weights and everything. You know, when it was competition dancing. So it's a tough thing to do, but it's like I say, going back to that adrenaline stuff, you know, man, it's a high, man. You know, and there's nothing like it. So you can tell somebody, oh, this or that, you know, but until you get out there, man, you experience that. You experience that high that you get from dancing, man. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's partly why I wanted you to sit down and talk with you, is because, you know, everyone remembers R.G. Harris. And I remember hearing your name and people saying, you know, one of the best from Oklahoma, and everyone was saying his rockers were good, he's smooth. And I never got to see you because I was just a young guy up here. And but I saw some videos because I went to college with Dugan too, your son. We were buddies in college.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw the videos, and I was like, sure enough, you know, the rockers were smooth, and they never stopped moving until the drum stopped, and they never stuttered, and real smooth. And that always stuck with me as a dancer. And so like watching you dance on those videos was really like motivating for me. And I guess like the question from your perspective too would be, what makes a dancer stand out in your eyes? Like, what do you look for in a dancer?
In my point of view is, of course, the rockers first thing, you know, we look for. That rocker's got to be going, keeping in time with the drum. And for me, when I look for a dancer, I look for footwork and balance, you know. And of course, there's a lot of moves that a lot of guys do at the same time of a song. And creativity, you know, somebody come out and do a little bit something different. But mostly for me, it's the footwork. See a guy do something to the left, you know, do a move like that, boom, come back, do it to the right, you know. A couple of spins back to the left, you know, boom, come back, a couple of spins to the right, do a move going forward like that, come back, do it backwards, you know. Keeping that balance, arms, keeping the arms out like that. Because a lot of times, you know, when guys get tired, man, first thing, the arms come down. But if you keep them arms out, you know, and being in control, showing the judges, showing the people that you're in control. You know, like I say, everything that I talk about always goes back to what I was told. You know, I don't call myself this or I don't call myself that. I just could say I remembered what I was told. You know, and it's like a challenge. That drum's challenging you. You know, you're challenging that drum. You know, to a point. You know, like my late father said, you'll never beat it. You know, that drum will always outlast you. Them songs can be long, they'll outlast you. Or they can sing a trick song and trick you. and beat you, you lose. But if you go along with it just right, respect that drum, go along with it, kind of a couple of steps behind it, he told me. It's going to take care of you. It's going to take care of you. So that's what I look for, just that guy that's in control out there, doing his moves out there, a lot of footwork, a lot of body work and the rocker. And I always told my wife, I didn't want to, whenever they would have a contest or especially like a spotlight or something, I'd always try to be the last one, to dance, because I wanted, and these other guys that went before me, kind of doing the same thing, doing the same thing. I always wanted to have the people on the edge of their seats because I wanted them to think, hang on. Somebody might say, well, let's go home. Everybody's already danced. Hang on. RG's going to be the last one. I know he's going to do something different, I know he's going to bring something that nobody ain't done yet. So once again, back to prayer again. That's why I prayed, that I could do something that would be, kind of, make people feel good, put a smile on their face, and even some of the guys I danced against probably went, damn, RG, I've never seen that move before, stuff like that, just to make people feel good, and I always wanted to be kind of just a little bit different.
Yeah. That's awesome. I really like how you're explaining not only the dance, but also, what catches the eye. And this is all coming from, again, the legit perspective of you being a champion dancer who carried this dance for so long and helped it evolve into what it is today, obviously. And you're coming at it from a lot of experience and a lot of years dedicated to this dance and honoring this dance. And I guess for me, a question I have is, what is your most memorable moment you have of doing this dance? What stands out the most in your memory?
I think probably at the time was probably Red Earth, I think back in 96, 95, 96. Because that was kind of along about the time when the Northern style music hadn't really come down this way too much. You might have a big powwow like that back when Red Earth was big, where people around here got to hear Northern style singing, in person, and then a lot of people up north got to come down and hear Southern style music in person, So that's about the time it was kind of, we were getting a dance to their style and they were getting a dance to our style. And I remember this particular spotlight because, I like that spotlight because you can't hide, a lot of times. You know how it is, when you get tired, sometimes they want to spin towards the middle, and kind of hide a little bit till
the last start.
that last push up, and then come back out to the outside, and finish strong, and it's kind of a trick, when you get tired or you're hurting or something. But when in that spotlight, man, there's no place to hide, man. So always, that was maybe intimidating to some people, but to me, I seen that as an opportunity. Now people's going to see this stuff, the little things that I do that maybe might get covered up with everybody spinning around and doing all kinds of stuff. Now they're going to get to see me do my stuff out here and go to work. And that was a pretty good highlight because I'd learned a song from Whitefish Juniors. A hop song I'd learned from from my bro there, Harvey Dreber, And it just so happens when we were drawing out of the hat, when they had the spotlight, you had to draw out of the hat, which two drums you would get, a hop song and then a shake song. So I drew Whitefish Juniors for my first song. I took tobacco over to my bro and said, "Hey, bro, remember that one song? It's that one song I know." I said, "Could you sing that one for me?" And he said, "Yeah, man, sure enough, brother, we'll do that for you." So they sang that song for me. So at the time when that was going on, not a lot of the dancers in the South, heard Northern style hop songs, So it's kind of like I was kind of one of the first ones to really get to show that style. So I got to dance to that, and got to put in a lot of, almost mix a little Southern style in with it. Put some steps in there, and this, that, back to the left, back to the right, forward move, backwards move, spin to the left, spin to the right, hesitation moves, so I got to put a lot of that into that song, and man, it came out good, man. So that was probably one of my highlights of dancing.
Let's welcome with a big round of applause, R.G. Harris. Oh, this is his first time in this arena. You can tell that. Quite a showman right here. All of these young men. Let us know when you're ready, R.G. Harris. All right, Whitefish Jr. Lincoln Dance. Stand by. We got some water here for you, RG, if you need a drink.
Awesome. And that video is available on YouTube. We're going to link it up in the show notes so our listeners could see what we're talking about here and observe what we're talking about here, that very specific solo in the spotlight you did at Red Earth at that time. Because not everybody gets to be out there, and that's why I wanted to sit with you and have this conversation around this dance, because, you're the world champion, you won a few times, numerous times, Ponca Powwow, and that's really cool to hear. And like I said, not everybody gets to be out there in the dance arbor and experience what we're talking about here. So I feel really privileged to have been able to dance and get on that dance floor and in the dance arbor and experience what we're talking about here. I mean, I'm not the world champ. I mean, you're the one that won Ponca Powwow numerous times, so I'm really humbled to sit with you and share in this conversation and listen to what you have to say about not only Red Earth, but even Ponca Powwow, and having gone through that experience too is really unique.
Like I say, the top thing for me, is dancing at Ponca, where it came from, and being considered a world champion there. But I won a lot of championships all over, and I enjoyed myself dancing here and there, and I had ultimate respect for all the communities where I dance, and but just if you ask me my favorites, I'd be winning here, winning that Ponca at White Eagle Reservation, home of the world champions. That's what they say. There's a sign out in front. There used to be a sign out in front there when you drive into the powwow grounds. It said, welcome to White Eagle Reservation, home of the world championship, where champions meet champions. And I always got fired up when I seen that, Yeah, and as a dancer too, I was telling my wife, I said, there's always something that kind of, to somebody else, like to somebody else driving driving in the powwow ground and seeing that sign, you know, they might not even read what it says, you know. But there was always something for me that kind of pushed the button,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it caused me to turn on, you know.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, when I read that sign, you know, every time I come in, you know, we're champions meet champions. I want to be the champion of all the champions, you know. So just you know, between myself, you know, and challenge myself, and not to be, you know, talk anyway, you know, but within myself, you know, I tell myself that, you know, I want to be the champion of champions, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I love that about Dancing Fancy, though, because we're all bros and we're all kin when we're out there, but there is that competitive edge where you are battling each other. But it's always first and foremost, like you said, you know, yourself, and you're challenging yourself. And even for me, it's just like, I want to survive that one song, or I want to survive those two songs, and finish the day off good, good way. But at the same time, you know, you battle your bros, and you know, competitive edge comes out in a good way, and that's enjoyable too. And the little battle happens, and then you're still bros afterwards. So that it's cool how that was still a real thing back then too.
Yeah, I think, of course, all the categories, you know, want to dance and want to win. But I think, like I say, I always tell people, fancy dancers, you know, we're a little bit different, you know. You know, we're just, we like that adrenaline, you know. We like that challenge, you know. We like that being out there by ourselves, you know. We like that spotlight, you know. We like being challenged. And I think we're the ultimate competitors, you know. We want to beat somebody. We want to just go out there and do something, you know, and, you know, have somebody say, "Damn, man, RG, man, shit, you went off, man," you know, and stuff like that. You know, that's what we like, you know. But like you say, you know, when the powwow's over, you know, well, go buy each other dinner, you know, and sit down at the table and eat, you know, and stuff like that, you know, and feed each other, you know, families, you know, buy your bro, you know, family a meal at the buffet or whatever, stuff like that, you know. But we're on the dance floor, you know. I'm gonna try to beat you.
Yeah, it's a war zone sometimes, in a good way.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and since I got you here sitting down, I wanna ask you a question about how does like the next generation move forward in terms of respecting the dance, learning it, and taking it forward into the future.
Yeah, I hope I've noticed, you know, and you've noticed it too, that some of the dancers, you know, now kind of almost take it personal, you know, when they're dancing out there. It seems like getting mad, you know, when they don't win, and kind of, you know, I kind of will see it out of the corner of my eye, and the guy gets mad when he doesn't win, or gets mad and says the judges weren't this or weren't that, or the powwow committee or this, you know. But really, you know, when you get right down to it, the way I was told, and the way the elders told me, you know, be glad you can dance, you know. Be glad you can get out there and do these things. It's a gift. You know, the Creator gave you a gift to dance. He gave you a gift to move around, to make people feel good. He gave you a gift to make these movements, you know, and feel that spirit of this drum, you know, and go right along with it. And as a result, you know, people feel good watching you dance, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned too that how, you know, things sort of took a different turn when money became more involved. I mean, you know, money was always there in terms of competition, but then, you know, it kind of started to skew things a little bit. And can you mention what took place in your observation on how that competitive edge was influenced by, I guess, like the increase of prize money and sponsorship of powwows and things like that, and how we have to be mindful of that today?
I guess in the early 90s, I guess a lot of the casino powwows start offering more money. And when that money came in greed also, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But my advice to the next generation, you know, like your daughter and different young ones coming up, is try to ask questions, you know, to some of the older dancers, you know, and learn that respect, you know, for that arena, you know, and learn that respect for that drum, you know, and learn that respect for that dance, fancy dance, you know, what it represents, you know. And, you know, I always try to think about a horse, you know, when I'm dancing. You know, when you see a horse, you know, boy, you see, you know, when he's just standing there, you know he's fast. You know he's strong, you know. You know the endurance, is high, I always think, I try to make some of my moves like that horse, and try to mimic that horse and how I think he would move, one of my bros too from what's that one group there? They had a group from up north there. They gave me a nickname, and I said, "Hey, what does that name mean?" He said they're calling you a Mustang or a horse or something.
Yeah.
So I guess some of them moves kind of reminded them of a horse or something. I said, "Well, that's a compliment,
Yeah. Misatim in Cree is horse, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool nickname.
But yeah, I would just say, just ask some questions, go back, do their research and talk to their fathers or their uncles or their grandpas and, have that respect for that dance. Carry it on from where we left off,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what they told me, and that's what the dancers told me is, you're coming up, you're next. Take these stories, don't add on to them or don't take away from them. Just tell them the way we told them, and you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And that main thing I always got out of all the talks that I've had to listen to, and sit down and listen to them was that respect,
Yeah.
Don't forget that, because don't let it get too much money,
Yeah.
Of course, we got to have money to survive, but, be thankful for what we got.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in these times, pandemics, POWs aren't as much as they used to be up here, and I'm really missing it. So it's like just to be out there again, man, I'm going to appreciate it. Like, I just want to be in that moment. I want to be in that third push-up, push through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, and if nobody's ever fenced there, they don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Because that third push-up can be, at the point there, in the song where, you either feel good or you don't,
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't run enough this week, and the legs start burning, or when that third push-up comes, you're feeling strong. You're like, oh, yeah, shit, man, I'm getting ready to blow everybody away on the fourth push-up,
Yeah, totally.
But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you making time for me and sitting down with us and sharing what you know, what you remember, what you experience, because it's all wisdom. It's really good and refreshing to hear you, put things back into perspective too, around, just being grateful to dance and having your body and having those movements is a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things too, that kind of did it again, was I had 2 total knee replacements. When I had the first one, after you have that surgery, you're basically in bed and you can't move, So that makes you think, man, I remember, when I used to be able to fancy dance, I used to be able to do this and get around good, and you have to go from a walker to crutches, to a cane, and pretty soon walking, then you can kind of jog a little bit and stretch, and then kind of half a push-up, on a song, and pretty soon you're dancing 1 push-up, then you make it through 2 push-ups, and then you make it through a song. So it brings you back to earth, you appreciate being able to dance again. It's done that for me. So that would be the thing that, I would hope the next generation would learn is, be thankful. Because not everybody can dance. Not everybody's a fancy dancer. Takes a different kind of person. It's physically, you got to be in good shape. It makes you tired. Makes a good tired. And mentally, you got to be right there, man. You got to be on it. You got to be there, man. You got to know what's going on and be prepared. So it's a good thing. Fancy dancing is a good thing. Dancing is a good thing. And but it all goes back to the drum. The singers. We depend on them. We depend on the song, it depends on what song they sing for us is going to have, depends on how I'm going to dance,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're really tying it all together here and even, reminding me and teaching me what I have to do to be grateful for this dance and to be thankful for my body, thankful for the singers and the drum out there that make us look good, and sharing this with people who can't dance or people who, you know, are in the audience and may not be feeling too good, and to be respectful, and it was cool how you shared those stories of, you know, everyone having a unique style, and for young people to be mindful of that too, and just to be thankful for your body and what it does. It's really cool to hear this, and it coming from you, you know, tying it all together and sharing this knowledge. It's really good to hear. And I guess I want to ask you, you know, is there anything you want to say or anything you want to bring up and cover?
I just been thinking about it, you know, since you first you know, approached my family about this, and I think it's real good that somebody's actually taking time out to, you know, do some research on the dancing and giving honor to in the South Country here where it came from, you know, and just appreciate that. And then the tribe, you know, where it came from, and myself being a part of that tribe, you know, the Ponca tribe. We're proud of that part and being a world champion there. And just the dancing, you know, I'm just real glad and grateful that, you know, you wanted to do something like this, to find somebody, you know, to talk about the dance and do the research on it, you know, because like now, you know, it's almost, you can almost turn on the video and see something. I want to do that, you know, without even knowing where it came from or what it represents.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm just real glad, you know, I'm thankful that you wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, for me, part of the reason I wanted to do this was it's not our dance, right? It made its way north over the last, you know, couple decades. So, and I mean, Plains Cree Nakota people, we have our dances, we have our style. But yeah, this fancy dance we picked up a little bit later, and it made its way north. And I was always told to be, you know, respectful of it because it's not our dance, and to be mindful of it. And all dances, you know, in my mind are gifts from the Creator. But this one comes from a people too, so I really wanted to be respectful with that, dancing it, you know, my entire time.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. You know, it's good. It's made its way. You know, like you say, it's nationwide now, but it's almost, to me, it's like we've complemented each other. You know, the dance was here and the fancy dance style. Then as I've seen fancy dancers come down from the north, it's almost like, oh, dang, they almost made it more exciting than we was dancing, you know. You know, and brought some things in, and like I say, you know, we copied some of the stuff they did, and you know, maybe they copied some of the stuff we did. But it always came back to, you know, respect. I always enjoyed dancing and going different places and competing all over, and taking my style, you might say. I've never, speaking of style, you know, I never really tried to dance like somebody else. I'll just try to do what I do, you know, and try to make people feel good, you know, dance. You know, I've had pretty good success with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. I like also too how, you know, you brought up respect and you know, being respectful of the dance, but the songs also, and also the people doing the dancing, because I like how you highlighted, you know, some people take it too serious in the audience, and you tell them, you know, bustle up and get out there and try it, because it's different when you're out there. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it's a little different when you're out there, you know. Yeah, I've had people say that, you know, and that's going back to another story my late father told me. You know, he said, you're not going to please everybody, you know, as long as you please about 75% of the people, then you've done a pretty good job, because there's always going to be that 25% is going to go to the next powwow and complain, and go to the next powwow and complain. You know. But the main thing, you know, you just got to enjoy yourself, you know, dancing, you know, try to make people feel good. You know, there's always going to be somebody say something, but just stay focused, you know, and do what you do, you know, enjoy yourself while you're dancing. Know why you're dancing, you know, and I've never, you know, never had too much trouble with it, you know. Of course, you know, there's some people say, well, you shouldn't have won, or this, or you did that, or you should dance like somebody, or something. Well, you know, just all in good competition, all in good fun, you know. The fancy dancers, you know, we're all right, but sometimes people outside, you know, might say something, but it's all good, you know, to me. like I say, well, if you think you can beat me, put some bustles on, and then we'll put a song on and we'll dance to it. It's a little different dancing, you know how it is.
Yeah, it is. It's different. It's unique, and there's nothing else like it. Like when you're out there, and it's like one of the best feelings in the world, and you can't really explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a high, man. It's definitely a high. What's a dream, hearing that song and dancing to it, feeling good, making people feel good. That's what it's all about, I think.
Yeah. And what about advice for somebody who's training then, like somebody who wants to get out there and survive, those 2 songs or even those 3 songs and get through that third push-up? How would you recommend someone starting to train and want to get, active enough to do that?
Yeah, I tried different techniques about fancy dancing. One summer I tried to ride 10-speed, but it made my legs real kind of like I couldn't do some of the moves. It was real kind of stiff, like, and maybe the bikes, the muscles that you use for a bike, it didn't go along with fancy dancing. And then I tried jumping rope is pretty close.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is when your calves start burning. Then your lower back. That's pretty close to fancy dancing, but. The best thing I could say for trying to get in shape for fancy dance is just put on a tape and fancy dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
there's nothing else like it in the whole world.
Exactly.
There's no kind of training that I could say, well, if you do this, it'll make you a good fancy dancer.
Yeah.
To me, you just got to practice. But jumping rope always helped. I jumped rope, and my dad used to make me run and take me down by the river and run in that sand, real deep sand. Yeah. That always helped. But then I used to run during the week, jump rope, I didn't start lifting weights till later on, but mostly just jumping rope and running and just putting on a tape and dancing to it. And that gives you the right amount of time, your body has to perform, 4 push-ups, and then I'd even walk around like in between songs.
Yeah.
I'd picture myself and imagine, the MC talking, and giving us a break, and then, okay, fancy that second song, and then I hit the tape again and dance that second song so that your body gets trained to that time, that you're pushing your body hard, that you get a little break there, and then you got to go again, So I did that a lot.
Yeah, and it's easy nowadays with that YouTube. You just got to play the powwow video, and then they have the contest there back to back, and just like you're really there.
Yeah. And even old as I am, like I say, I started dancing when I was 5, and I'm 62 now. Even like tonight, right around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I started getting kind of nervous a little bit, because my body knows, hey, it's not grand entry time Saturday night, and I was like, oh shoot, but it's been trained, to be ready, at that time, Friday night, Saturday night.
Yeah.
Even if you're not dancing, even if you're watching the video, and then they say, all right, man, fancy, be started by, man, your heart starts beating fast, like, oh, it's like you're there,
Yeah, that's true. That happens to me a lot too. Even when I hear a new song, I get a bit nervous because I don't know it. Like even just on YouTube or, someone playing it on a CD, I was like, I never heard that. And it kind of makes you nervous. So you got to hear it like a few more times and put it in your mind.
Yeah, that's another thing too, especially nowadays is you really got to do a lot of research with the songs. All the drum groups are making new songs, sometimes, over the winter, so they come out with new songs. So you got to be real, up on the latest songs too, because you really can't really do what you want to do if you don't know where that song is going to stop, and you're kind of hesitant, but if you get that one song, and a lot of times the drums too, they'll, I know, a lot of times if you're in a tie or something, and drum groups say who the tie is, they'll, a lot of times they sing songs that I knew, so that, they know that I could do what I wanted to do in that song, that I didn't have to hesitate because I didn't know where the song was going to stop. one story that I had there real quick. I was me and my wife went to Powwow and Rocky Boyd, and they had a fancy dance special Thursday night at Little Shell. They were dancing for a set of bustles and 500, and I had a lot of money back then. So we went over there, and man, it was cold that night. So it was so cold. We know how it is, when you're dancing, it's cold. Man, you look like horses out there, boy. You're breathing, that smoke's coming out.
Yeah, you're steaming. Yeah, you got your steam. Yeah.
Steam's coming up your head from where you're sweating, So, boy, we got down to the finals, and that family was standing up there, and boy, we danced 9 songs, wow. And I was tired. And I thought, well, to myself, I was thinking, I don't know why we danced that many songs, Pretty much the moves I made on that first song were probably what I'm going to do on the second and third song, But I kept it in there, So they were, after the 9th song, well, they all gathered up, and I went, oh, this ain't good, man, because they're going to say, one more song. So sure enough, well, the family gathered up, and they were talking, and they told the radio director, they want one more song. It was a 10th song. I was like, man, I could just walk off, and go back to the car and get rested up. But, as fancy dancers, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that, man. It's like giving up. We don't do that.
Mm-hmm. So
I was sitting there going, well, I'm going to, whatever they sing, I'm going to give it my best. And about that time, they said, all right, Mandaree, stand by. So I looked over to Mandaree singers. The late Bill was sitting over there, and boy, pointed at me, put the thumbs up. And I thought, I wonder what that means, but it must be good,
Yeah.
But I guess I had a grandfather way back there, maybe in the 60s or 70s or so, that was friends with one of the singers up there. And they traded some tapes, I guess.
Mm.
So Mandaree knew some of the Southern songs. So this was back when we would go up north, but none of the dancers would hardly come down south.
Yeah.
So in the 10th song, Mandaree sang a shake song, Ponca song. So none of them guys knew it, huh?
Yeah.
So I was the only one that made all them stop. So, man, I won that special on the 10th song.
Wow.
Mandaree sang me a Southern song, man. Saved me, boy. Oh, man.
Right on.
So I won the 500 and set of bustles, man. Oh.
Wow, that's amazing. And this is legendary. That's Mandaree and you.
But that's, that goes back to, once again, that drum, getting along with that drum, they sang a song that I could dance to,
Mm-hmm.
So they made me look good, and I turned around and made them, look good, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out, man. We connected.
Yeah, and that's a legend story. Like, that's legendary for you to be dancing to Mandaree at that time, and up here at that time. It's a pretty unique story, and again, it ties it all together. Dancing to a drum, and the drum, never gonna outbeat it, like you say, and sometimes it syncs up good, and you're in that moment, and it all works out smooth. Yeah, that's really good. Really good information here. I'm really excited to see how, people share this and listen to us, because, when we go to powwows, we do get to sit down and visit, but, men's fancy dancers, we're in the zone. You know what I mean? We're always focused on trying to survive the weekend and checking our body, making sure we're good, trying not to overeat. So sometimes we don't get to visit and sit down and talk story like this. So it's really good to sit with you, world champion, and have a conversation like this.
Yeah, you're always worried about not eating or eating too much, or not eating enough, or then you don't feel like visiting with somebody, then you can't visit with somebody right before the contest because, man, you're in that zone, man. You don't want to dang visit with anybody, and you're thinking about this and the songs, and putting all the moves together and everything. So yeah, it's right, man. It's good sometimes to sit down and get to visit.
Yeah, for sure. And again, thanks for sharing this knowledge and you learned, and again, your experiences, you tied it all into that personal story. And that's why I wanted you on here. Can't sit with an audience member and talk fancy dance. I wanted somebody who's been in there and been out there and literally won, the world championship.
Yeah, that's just whatever I think, whatever I said, that's, can't take it back. It's what I was told and what I learned, stories I was told to, and respect that I had, So yeah, that sounds good, man. I appreciate, like I say, appreciate you thinking about me. There's a lot of good dancers out there, and a lot of champions, and appreciate you choosing me, to talk about it and try to do the best I can and tell you what I was told, and share and carry on stories that was told to me. And now share them with you, and you can take them on, tell your children, and on and on,
Yeah, there's some guys. I shot the questions to some friends and other dancers, and they kind of even asked questions, like they added to those questions I gave you, and so everyone's really curious to hear, you know, your knowledge and what you're saying, and take that on board too. And then another question too that I just remembered, another friend told me to ask was, you had a really unique paint style. You painted your face a really unique way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they were curious and wondering about that too.
Yeah, my father told me to paint like that, and in our tribe, Sac Fox, I belong to the Bear Clan, so that's why I wear that red, you know, over my eyes, you know, right there. And then he told me that that white stripe means I'm the second born in my family. Second born son, I guess you might say.
Mm-hmm.
So he painted me up like that, and he said, "This is the way you're going to paint from now on." You know. Mm-hmm. So every time I dance, you know, I paint the same way. You know, my clan colors, and white stripe. You know, second born. Mm-hmm. So he told me that long time ago, when our tribes, you know, each clan had a color, you know. Each clan was designated a color, so that whenever we was on a hunting expedition or wherever, when those other tribesmen would see a bunch of guys over here with red on, oh, that's all the bears over there. All the bears are over there. Or green, you know, all the chief clans over there, you know, mm-hmm. stuff like that. So kind of like a strategic, you know, everybody knew where everybody was at, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why I belong to that bear clan. So that's why we're red, and do some bear paws, you know, in my beadwork, try to incorporate that. Yeah, so that's why you see those things. Try to just stay pretty much with that red and white. That way my people know who I am, you know, where I come from. But it's good to wear other colors. Sometimes I always want, I wish I could wear these colors, you know, but, you know, just it's been engraved into me, you know, to wear these colors. So that's why I do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess some guys, too, wherever their tribes are, too, they have their own paint and different styles, too, out there.
Yeah.
Something for people to ask about where they're from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's all good, you know. Everybody's tribes are different, you know, and everybody has different beliefs and different ways they do things. My late father always told me, you know, when you go somewhere, you know, when you get over there, you know, go along with them, you know. Try to go along with them. However they do, it's all right. Mm-hmm. It might not be the way we do things, but when you're there at their home, you know, go along with them, you know, try to be part of them. Mm-hmm. You know, then when we come home, you know, then we can do things the way we do them.
Yeah, their land, their rules, their territory, their rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the philosophy I took, you know, whenever I go somewhere, you know, to a tribe there, go along with the way they do things, you know, it's all right with me, you know.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah,
that's good advice too.
But we got a real close tie with the Cree people, you know, with a lot of adopted relatives, you know, that shared things with us, and you know, we always have a good place in our heart, you know, for those people, and like my son, you know, he lives up there too, you know. Is he your neighbor?
Yeah, he's my neighbor. Ronnie's next door over there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's up there too now, you know, and my little grandson, my little Muslim, you know. You know, we have close ties with him and all of our relatives over there in Rocky Boys. And so, yeah, it's a good thing, you know. It's a good way of doing things and good way of being, and try to carry yourself. And this powwow causes you to have, you know, a lot of powwow relatives, you know, and see about each other and help each other when you can, like that, you know. Yeah. And my dad always told me too, he said, try to be nice to people. You know, like if we're sitting around here and somebody was a drive up that's traveling, you know, maybe somebody from Canada or somewhere come driving up, you know, oh, we're just traveling through, you know, we're on our way to here or there, you know, and cook a meal for them, feed them, offer them a place to sleep, you know, and next day when they get up, you know, whatever money you got, you know, just try to help them out. And here, you know, it's not much, you know, but it's all we got. Yeah. Get some gas or stop and eat, have a meal along the way or something. Mm-hmm. He said, because you never know, he said, later on, your children might be traveling, and they're going to come in contact with that person or their family, and they're going to say, hey, I remember your dad cooked for my dad over there that time, and my mom, you know, they came over to your dad and his wife home, and they cook for them, and they give them money the next day and send them on their way, kind of like that,
Yeah.
Just continue on, keep the good, respectful thing going,
Yeah, we got a lot of Comanche Kiowa here on Powmaker, almost enough to start a drum group or have a powwow or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also like our ties too, like Cree and Sac Fox, very similar language, and then even down to the Kickapoo down south. So our histories intertwined way back when, I guess.
Yeah. I was talking up there, and they understand me, and I can kind of understand them, and that's kind of what drew us together, and all my uncles, I can understand them pretty good, about halfway, and kind of what they're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good good way to be, I think, respectful way, treat one another.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time, RG, and yeah, I really enjoyed everything you said, and really putting things into perspective for me again, and it feels real good to have this conversation, and makes me want to dance. Literally makes me want to dance and bustle up.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's it, man. That's that spirit, spirituality of it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is, for sure. Right on. Thanks for your time. I appreciate everything. And I'll check on Ronnie over there, and I wanted to work out with him or go for a run or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell him I said hello there, my little Muslim there, Grayson.
Yeah, for sure. We will. Yeah.
Okay, all right, Mylan, thank you again.
Right on. I appreciate it. Yep. We'll be in touch.
Kozad, stand by. We got some water here for your RG if you need a drink. Some Red Dog. Kozad, make him dance, gentlemen. Kozad. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for R.G. Harris. Let your rounder R.G. Look these judges right square in the eye.